No creator, no developer, no person is infallible. We all make mistakes, some larger than others. Even so, that does not excuse the sheer unprofessionalism that was shown by Hada Studio when it came to the marketing of Tower of Fantasy and the issues that it had after the game launched. From plagiarism to using bots in an attempt to manipulate positive ratings online, they've done it all. And while their acts have been documented online, it's never been done like this. Hey, my name is STIX and welcome back to the channel. I know we're all anticipating Tower of Fantasy. It's a stunning looking anime MMO, and both MRSSSTIX and I actually got into their closed beta test later this month. But before we play, before we encourage our viewers to try this game out, I want to personally take a few minutes of your time here and show you the kinds of developers that Hada Studio are. Quick shout out to our patrons over on Patreon. This allows you to directly support us if you're interested. Every patron will have their name appear at the beginning of every single YouTube video, and you'll be immortalized in the MMO genre forever. Now, Tower of Fantasy has advertised itself as the Genshin Impact killer ever since its inception. It looks like Genshin Impact, it plays like Genshin Impact, just on a massively multiplayer scale. This is what players have wanted ever since Genshin Impact released. What we've ended up with, though, is an amalgamation of other people's efforts being presented to us, with Hada claiming it as their own. First, let's go ahead here and discuss the moment that Tower of Fantasy was caught plagiarizing Honkai Impact 3rd. Yeah, Honkai Impact, one of the largest gacha games in the entire history of the genre, from MiHoYo, who also happened to develop and publish Genshin Impact. Hada Studio released a trailer for the game, showing off new footage, new characters, story, combat. Typically, this should have been cause for celebration, but approximately 49 seconds into the trailer, fans noticed something. One of the soldiers actually had a sword, the third sacred relic that belonged to Honkai Impact. Naturally, Honkai fans noticed immediately, and they took to social media to berate Hada for stealing assets from other popular games and using them in their promotional material. Hada themselves were forced to make a public apology for this after being called out for theft and for plagiarism, and actually went on to state, "Due to our negligence, we failed to discover the problem of misuse of material in time, and as of now, the existing material in question has been arranged to be revised and updated. In this regard, we have conducted a profound review and apologize to all of the topographers affected by this matter." And at this moment, they probably could have at least saved a little bit of face, but instead they opted to redirect this blame onto others. After verification, the reason for this problem is that the trailer outsourcing process, the supplier used some material that is not in the game, and we did not find it in time during the review. So the misused material video was released normally. So what this means in essence is, we're sorry, but you know what, it wasn't our fault. We outsourced the entire trailer to other people, and we just couldn't find the time it would take us to preview a 2-minute video before publishing it for a multi-million-dollar video game. You can't blame us for that. If only more companies had this level of professional integrity. Many Chinese players were actually quite upset with that apology, as Hada decided that they wanted to make this public apology at midnight when most of the players wouldn't actually see it. Sneaky, sneaky Hada. Looking at the trailer now, the sword was actually removed, although you can see the NPC continue to make the same motion as if he had a sword present. Now, the second month, Hada decided, you know what, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna release a second trailer for our game. This time though, they were smart. They previewed the trailer before publishing it to make sure that it didn't steal assets from other games. Creators though, oh yeah, no problem. That was perfectly acceptable. Yeah, because a month later, they were once again accused of plagiarism. This time, they didn't steal assets from another developer or another game. Rather, they stole the entire trailer from another person. I'm not even kidding. Now, someone made a side-by-side comparison of the two different videos and posted that video onto Reddit, which I will include a link to in the description for people that want it. I'll also include a link to the official creator of the video, but we are going to take a look at it here and see if we can't personally discern the similarities ourselves. Wow. Oh man. If this wasn't blatantly obvious, then you're blind. Like, granted, there are small portions of originality, but that's more just like with the video being cut and transitioning, having weird transitions. Now, after this was made public, Hada actually went ahead and they removed the trailer entirely. The original video is no longer available due to the sheer embarrassment that they must have been facing. How do you steal an entire trailer and think that someone won't notice a mere month after being accused and subsequently apologizing for stealing assets for your previous trailer? I don't recall Hada making a public apology for this mistake, not that they realistically could make any type of acceptable apology at this juncture. Whoops, it happened again. This time though, it was on a much grander scale. One that we can't realistically blame on outsourcing, because this time the trailer was made in-house. You know what, actually, I do have a way that we can deal with this. Maybe we just pretend it didn't happen. Yeah, that'll go over well. And that's pretty much what they did. They have made hundreds of millions of dollars at this point, and they're still lying. They are still stealing, and they are still making excuses. But that is not the worst of it though. After fumbling repeatedly and continuing to see not only a decline in active players, but also a declining rating on both the iOS and the Play Store, Hada did what any rational person, what any rational company would do in their situation. They bought fake reviews. Yeah, if people dislike your game and are honestly rating it lower than you would like, how do you combat that? You fake it. Tower of Fantasy was at 3 stars, and within mere days suddenly saw a spike all the way up to 4 stars, despite all the low ratings that were happening, the lack of downloads, and the general disinterest on social media. It went up almost an entire bracket, despite an ongoing duplication issue that was going on, destroying not only the in-game economy, but allowing for players to immediately get fully geared. In what world would your rating actually be on the rise during all of this? There were hundreds, there were thousands of new positive reviews pouring in over a several day period, but Chinese players began to notice something, that these reviews seemed eerily reminiscent of reviews left on another game they played. Yeah, to add insult to injury, it turns out that Hada Studio had hired botters to steal reviews left on Genshin Impact, the largest gacha game, or you know what, arguably one of the largest games in the entire world, and repost them as official Tower Fantasy reviews. People online began to take screenshots of the reviews that were left on Genshin and then compare them to the reviews that were left on Tower Fantasy. Other than the occasional name change from Genshin Impact to Tower Fantasy for some of the reviews, everything else was copy-pasted in its entirety. Instead of hiring botters to customize these reviews, or heck, to steal reviews from less well-known games, they instead take reviews from the most popular game in the world, especially within China. Like, can you be any dumber? When games launch, they typically launch with bugs. That's to be expected. 6 months after release, New World still had duplication bugs threatening the longevity of the title and the economy, but at least they made active attempts to remedy the situation, and they didn't try covering it up, despite at times making it much worse. Tower of Fantasy, on the other hand, opted for something a little different. There was an issue brought to the attention of the developers where a player pulled for an item, but due to a weak internet connection, disconnected. After logging back into the game, he found that he couldn't use the piece of gear that he obtained. After reaching out to customer support, having screenshots to prove exactly what happened, the devs decided to outright delete his entire pull history. That way, the player would have no evidence that this happened. Other players learned of this and found a way to exploit it. Naturally, it's what gamers do, after all. I'm not going to disclose the method specifically. It's available online for interested parties. Upon learning of this, the studio decided to immediately take the servers offline and perform an emergency maintenance while compensating players with additional pulls. You know what? And that was an acceptable response. Deleting a player's entire history, though? No, not at all. But, you know, sure. After coming back online, players quickly learned, utilizing the same method, you could duplicate the compensatory rewards, allowing players to essentially fully gear themselves with a few hours worth of effort, or less if you were lucky. While Hada and Perfect World Games eventually remedied this, they didn't ban the players responsible for abusing neither the initial glitch or the secondary one. That was actually a main part of the reason for the large discontent found amongst players and the mass surge of negative reviews, especially given the number of players that spent money on the game. Yeah, they actually allowed players to continue to purchase premium currency even while players were actively abusing their systems, duplicating everything they could ever want or need. This set players back infinitely far, and the game, at least in China, has still yet to recover from this. And given this was an issue in China, it very well might be an issue over here in the West as well. We've seen this happen with plenty of other games. Now, admittedly, Hada Games have created an incredible looking anime MMO, but at the same time, just because a game looks great does not mean that it actually is. There have been so many issues with Tower of Fantasy that it's almost impossible to report on all of them in a single video, but these were the issues that made the most impact online. Again, no company is infallible, but the sheer number of mistakes that Hada have made are an embarrassment to the industry. They redirected blame to a company that they outsourced their trailer creation to. They then stole again, and they had no excuse the second time. They tried to hide the things they did, but that just made things worse. Every bit of this game's history has been a clown fiesta. They have been incredibly unprofessional, and they show no signs of doing anything differently for Western players. And while I am still, honestly excited to play this, because I'm not going to let something like this stop me from having fun, at least initially in the game, I do not have any kind of realistic expectation that they are going to handle this properly, handle this well. On the contrary, I know that the Western release of this game is, well, it's going to be quite the fun topic to report on. And I plan to, both the positive and the negative, as I always do. In the meantime, though, they just revealed Tower Fantasy 2.0, and I have a video for that right over there for those of you that are interested.